It's 12 o'clock. You're watching news analysis live on Politics and Business TV. The top stories. President Bola Tinubu discloses plans to tackle power challenges in Nigeria. Senate says local government councils in Nigeria are dead. House of Representatives urges the Federal Capital Territory Administration, FCTA, to regulate house rent and activities of landlords in Abuja. Details coming up shortly. Right, welcome back. I am Omoife Peace Osebere. President Bola Tinubu has disclosed the readiness of the federal government to tackle the power challenges in Nigeria with an additional 500 million standard cubic feet of gas in the domestic market. Tinubu stated this while inaugurating 3 critical gas infrastructure projects executed by the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, Seplat Energy and other partners in Ohaji Egbema in Imo State and Kwale in Delta State. He said this would also enhance industrialization and create more jobs with more gas supply into the nation's economy. The president, while launching the expansion of the processing plant, asserted that there would be more feedstock for the nation's gas-fired thermal power plant. Tinubu reiterated the federal government's determination to utilize Nigeria's abundant gas resources towards revamping the nation's industrial growth and kickstarting its economic prosperity. Meanwhile, the federal government has set a target of 10,000 megawatts through its sustainable power and irrigation project for Nigeria. The primary objective of the project, which is reportedly in collaboration with the World Bank, is to enhance the utilization of existing storage facilities for both irrigation and hydropower generation. Minister of Power Adebayo Adelabu, who disclosed these during the African High-Level Roundtable on Sustainable Hydropower in the African Renewable Energy Mix of the 21st Century held in Abuja, added that it aims to strengthen institutional frameworks related to integrated water resources management within Nigeria. While acknowledging the immense potential for hydropower development in Africa, he said it is important to also consider responsible development. The minister also said that Nigeria has completed several major hydropower projects, including the 760 megawatt Kenji, 578 megawatts Jeba, 600 megawatts Shiroro, 40 megawatts Mabon, and the newly inaugurated 700 megawatts Zungeru and 40 megawatt Kashimbila hydropower stations. Adelabu said while the country's hydropower capacity is estimated at 14 gigawatts, only around 15% of this potential has been harnessed. A development is said indicated a significant untapped opportunity for hydropower development throughout Nigeria. And now to other matters where the Senate has accused state governors of misappropriating funds allocated to local government councils in Nigeria, further stressing that the arm of government was dead in the country. It also said the dream of achieving the objectives of the local government system has encountered harsh realities as successive governments have often eroded local autonomy, limiting their financial resources and control over decision-making. The Red Chamber has therefore asked the federal government to stop further allocation of funds to caretaker committee-led local government areas and urged President Bola Tinubu to, as a matter of urgency, champion the cause of full autonomy for local government in the country. These resolutions were sequel to a motion sponsored by Senator Suleiman Kawu of the New Nigeria People's Party, Kano South. Presenting the motion, Senator Kawu said, in the tapestry of Nigeria's governance system, local governments are meant to be threads weaving development close to the ground. Contributing, Senator Ojuzo Kalu of the All Progressives Congress in Abia North and the former governor of Abia State acknowledged that councillors had the authority to grant modest contracts in the past but bemoaned the absence of local government in the present. He said local government funds must be returned 100% to the local councils with improvements in the capacity of people running the councils. The Chief Whip of the Senate, Senator Ali Ndume, has explained the difference between corruption by politicians and other people. Ndume, who said corruption in Nigerian politics is people-driven and should not warrant any serious punishment, admitted that politicians steal and share with the people. He stated this on national television while speaking on the death penalty as the deterrent for those caught with drugs. He said when politicians' corruption is compared to others, it is a small one. Right, you're watching News Analysis live on Politics and Business TV. Still to come. For the 16th straight month, Nigeria's headline inflation rate hit 33.69% in April 2024. But this is an average price, or this is as average price of imported food commodities to Nigeria rose to its highest level, reaching 34% in 1 year between April 2023 and April 2024. The surge in inflation rate is reportedly spurred by a threefold spike in electricity tariffs and increased transportation expenses. A conversation on this with an economist, Adefolarin Olamilekan, who will be joining us in a moment. Do join us again for details and more. Welcome back. You're watching News Analysis live on Politics and Business TV. Now, the House of Representatives has urged the Federal Capital Territory Administration, FCTA, to formulate policies to regulate house rent and activities of landlords in Abuja. This followed the adoption of a motion by Emmanuel Udo of the People's Democratic Party in Akwa Ibom on the floor of the House in Abuja on Wednesday. The lawmaker, who called for the implementation of monthly rent to encourage an inclusive rental system and curb the arbitrary increase in house rent in the FCT, said Nigeria was ripe for an inclusive rental system that would reduce the housing burden on working-class families. Udo, who based his concerns on the current economic hardship for civil servants who are already grappling with fuel subsidy removal, rising foreign exchange rate, electricity tariff increase, and tax or levies, added that the majority of FCT residents are civil servants and artisans who live in the satellite towns due to their meager incomes. He expressed optimism that the monthly rent would provide tenants with flexibility, better cash flow management, reasonable move-out options, and a stable income stream. Now to education matters. The Registrar, National Examinations Council, NECO, Professor Ibrahim Wushishi, says the complexity of its examination may not allow for immediate migration from paper to computer-based tests. Wushishi explained this during an interactive session with newsmen on key milestones achieved by the council in Abuja on Wednesday. He said that by being the body conducting the largest number of examinations, migrating to CBT would take a gradual step. Wushishi said that this was to ensure that standards of its exams in the areas of acceptability, reliability, and credibility are maintained. He added that international universities such as Leeds University and Birmingham University in the UK wrote the council to use its results to apply for those institutions. A development, is said, showed the credibility and acceptance of its results to international institutions and hence would not rush in migrating to CBT. National Bureau of Statistics has said Nigeria's headline inflation rate increased to 33.69% in April 2024, up from 33.20% recorded in March 2024. According to the Consumer Price Index report, the MPS said that this represents a month-on-month increase of 0.49% point in the headline inflation rate. We're comparing the report on a year-on-year basis. The inflation rate in April 2024 was 11.47 percentage points higher than in April 2023, where it stood at 22.22%, an indication that a headline inflation rate has risen significantly over the past year. Also, on a month-on-month basis, the inflation rate for April 2024 was 2.29%, which is 0.73% lower than the 3.02% recorded in March 2024. That's also an indication that the rate at which prices increased in April 2024 was lower than the rate in March 2024. I'm being joined by an economist and also lead researcher at Politics Analytics, Adefolarin Olamilekan. He joins us live via telephone this afternoon to discuss this. Adefolarin Olamilekan, thank you so much for joining us. Good afternoon to you. If you can hear me, good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for joining us. Right, an inflation rate of 33.69%. It is a renewed suffering administration, isn't it?
Very surprising at the same time. Is what we have predicted earlier. If you remember when we were in the studio the other time, now we look at the rate of challenges in the economy, particularly with the transportation costs as well as energy costs, which has been the major drivers of this inflation. We earlier said that we may have an increase on this, particularly on a significant level, and that's what we have seen now. 33.69% is quite huge, even though it wasn't something that many Nigerians were hoping with the policy of the government that it will reduce. But as it is today, it's not coming down at this moment.
You know, one would begin to wonder, aside, energy cost, why has the inflationary trend persisted despite interventions of the CBN? We understand that this is actually, this is not a trend, at least for the 16th, month, a straight month. I beg your pardon.
And what really happened was that right from when this inflation began to get double in digits, right from some years back, many of us have complained about the disconnection between monetary policy and fiscal policy as well as the trade policy of the government. And knowing fully well that CBN in recent times is to jack up their interest rate, which affects businesses or how businesses can access loans currently. And again, the fiscal policy of the government is so disconnected that in a way that the aspect that's supposed to treat transportation in terms of infrastructure has not been adhered to in ensuring that Nigerians have a list of, or list when it comes to cost of transportation, because cost of transportation is pulling so much weight and bringing about this inflation drive that we're having. If you remember in the past, CBN have always come out to say, okay, on their part, they are doing everything aggressively by jacking up the interest rate to fight inflation. But at the end of the day, whatever they do aggressively to fight inflation does not really bring down inflation in real time. But on technical level, we can see inflation on technical level from the books of CBN trying to drive it down. But in a real time, in a real reality of the economy, inflation is not coming down. And this tells you that the fiscal policy of the government is not addressing issues of inflation as expected. And when we talk about the fiscal policy of the government, we're talking about issues around subsidy, fuel subsidy, issues around infrastructure, issues around transportation infrastructure, which is very key in Nigeria economy, but all this has not been done in a way to address it. Even though many will acknowledge that the military policy of the government is a copycat of what is happening in the developed world, which is as a result of global economic trends. But central banks across the world are jacking up interest rates. But peculiarity of it in our local economy is not helping us at all, because the more interest rates they jack up, the more it affects the accessibility of funds by local businesses on the long run as well as in the short medium term.
Right. Before now, a number of analysts like you have actually, blamed, the move by the CBN to jack up, interest rate during its, monetary policy committee meeting. We understand that another MPC meeting will be coming up pretty soon. What are your expectations from that meeting, and how is that going to, affect this particular report, especially, while we prepare, for Tinubu's 1 year in office?
I think critically, the body language of CBN, the body language of Central Bank in Sub-Saharan Africa is directed on the body language of what is happening in Western Europe. Just this week alone, majority of central banks across the world are waiting for the Reserve Bank of US. Marketers on international level are waiting for interest rates of Reserve Bank of US to be announced, so they cannot determine the direction of their pricing of their commodity. The same thing with central bank across the world, the same thing with central bank in South Africa, the same thing with central bank here in Nigeria. They are all waiting for what US Reserve Bank will say. Either they are going to jack it up by a little percent, 5% of the interest rate, and that's what we speak on. Remember when the current interest rate we have about 24% or thereabout currently is announced by CBN was as a result of increase in the interest rate in US as well as in Europe banking sector, and that's our left to it. So we are not expecting anything less than another jacking up of the interest rate, because on the side of the government, particularly on the CBN, they are trying as much as possible to stabilize the financial sector in a way that there will be lesser money in circulation. So in circulation in the economy, because the belief of the monetary policy and the monetary policies like CBN is that the more money that we have in circulation, the more it leads to more money chasing few goods, and in that regard, it brings about higher cost of goods and services in the country. That's the belief of monetary policy economists, and that's why most times they jack up interest rates. But for those of us that have a deeper knowledge and critical knowledge about this particular incident, we understand it is not just because of the money in circulation that leads to inflation, because of some government policies. And we have to point it that government policy has contributed deeply to inflation in Nigeria.
What are some of these policies, Adefolarin? What are some of those policies?
We talk about the tariff, talk about the taxation, talk about the policy somersault, talk about policy inconsistency of government in some areas and in some sectors of the economy. It all brings about inflation. A good example is this. The failure of the government to use its policy in security to address insecurity is causing so much problem for food inflation, particularly transportation of food from the food agricultural center, or where most of these food are being farmed or being harvested, into the city center. That's one angle. Then another policy that I can also talk about that led to inflation is the policy inconsistency of government. Today, government will say one thing, tomorrow they will say another thing. I don't know whether you get it. A typical example of government policy inconsistencies in the area of fiscal policy that address how government revenue is being generated. On one hand, you are giving all the MDAs, all the government-owned enterprise, a matching order to go and collect tax, to go and make sure that they have those tax in place. But on the other hand, it's not taking care of the gaps, the challenges of collecting those revenue, and also nipping the areas or the lapses that will create corruption or abuse of those systems.
Well, Adefolarin, let me jump in. Let me jump in real quick. Sorry to butt you. I mean, I think yesterday or the day before yesterday, the Accountant General of the Federation came out to say that, the country, as a nation is, depending heavily or so much on, revenue in form of, tax or taxation, if you like. But when you talk about policy somersaults, we know, of course, that it's almost 1 year now since fuel subsidy was removed, and Nigerians are yet to even come to terms with, the removal of subsidy on petrol, you now add that to the electricity tariff hike or the indirect removal of subsidy on electricity. You also look at other issues too. However, this month of May seems to be, appears to be very promising. By that, I mean the CNG buses that federal government had actually, promised, to bring on board, just to ensure that the cost of transportation is reduced to the barest minimum. We're expecting that, to be finalized or to become a reality this month. At the same time, Dangote had come out earlier to say that the price of diesel, will be slashed, to a reasonable level, in such a way that we won't have to, apportion the blame as to why we have this, consistent inflationary trend on transportation costs, or we spend so much on diesel to transport, foodstuff from the north down south or from the south up north. So all of these issues, these are indications that the federal government is perhaps intentional, in terms of addressing inflation. You also take a look at, the currency market. The EFCC, for example, has been all out, to clamp down on naira racketeers, and you would agree that in recent times there's been, significant gains. But at the end of the day, prices of foodstuff and other essentials keep, skyrocketing. Should that blame be apportioned, on the government or the masses?
Now, the issue is that we still have to put the blame on the government, because most of the policy, as earlier pointed out, is the policy. Now, subsidies have been removed, but custom import duties is still being increased. I hope you are getting it.
All right.
Now, and on the part of people who import some complementary machine equipment to support their manufacturing sector, support their industrial sector, supporting how they produce some of their goods, who transmit the cost of all those on the end users or the last person that will consume their goods and services. That's one. Now, I really like the effort of the government, but the effort is not yet to translate into evidence that things can really come down when it comes to price of goods and services, because one hand, the government is doing everything possible to ensure that this thing comes down. On the other hand, it's destabilizing the building. See, one of the critical things that any importer will point to you today that is making them not to bring down the cost of their price of their goods is this. They will tell you that they are still paying so much for the protection of some of their equipment, spare parts, machine, and complementary goods they use in producing. They also tell you they are still spending so much on diesel and energy. They also tell you so much that they are spending so much in maintenance of their vehicle as a result of the bad road. So on one hand, government is doing ABC to ensure that things work. On the other hand, it's also contradicting and complicating issues on the other hand, by not making things to be easy on this other part. A good example is the insecurity. A good example is custom import duty that people are still paying. A good example is the multiple taxation at the subnational level, whereby state governors are not even in down with the federal government. The federal government is doing everything possible, but state governors are doing every other thing, and local government to do things that will make things worse for us.
Okay.
The security at the food station center in rural area, who's supposed to provide us security? They will say it's federal government. So what the local government is doing? What is the state government is doing?
Well, the Senate just came out to say that local government, councils or areas in the country, they are all dead. We see how, that argument, will pan out. Of course, that's definitely going to spark our views and counter views. But without making a storm in a teacup, let's do a little bit of comparative analysis between the Emefiele-led CBN and the Cardoso-led CBN. You talked about MPC policies earlier and how it has impacted, the nation's economic growth. What exactly differentiates this Cardoso-led CBN from that of, the former CBN governor?
I think at the start of Emefiele stewardship as the CBN, he brought about what we call heterodox monetary policy. Heterodox monetary policy has to do with protectionist ideology in terms of economy, protecting the local economy. That's the idea behind Emefiele kind of monetary policy. But when Cardoso came in as the CBN governor just in September, he brought about what we call orthodox monetary policy, which favor free market economy as well as market forces, supply and demand kind of monetary policy. That's what the two gentlemen brought in. But the core difference is this. At the start of Emefiele heterodox monetary sure that the forex market was not left in the hand of individuals who would take advantage of what he said. Although he was putting out strongest measures, but that strongest measure was not able to cater for ensuring that our forex market is free from multiple exchange rates. So on his part, he said the heterodox monetary policy suffer as a result of multiple exchange rates, and due to his weak governance structure, heterodox monetary policy is supposed to be very stringent, supposed to be using fix on offenders or wrongdoers. But Emefiele was using the other one to paint them. He was not strict, he was not punishing anybody, he was not sanctioning anybody, even though he put on the bold face of an heterodox monetary policy. And because of that, multiple forex market, multiple exchange rates sprinkled up, and nobody was able to say, okay, this is our exchange rate that we're having. But on the other hand, the orthodox monetary policy that Cardoso introduced, which also encourages free market, floating of the naira and the dollar, was a good one in terms of free capitalist economy, good favor, whereby the highest bidder in terms of the highest bidder take it all, meaning that the more you debate or the more you argue in terms of how the exchange rate could be in terms of supply and demand, you have to wait. But they also suffer the same fate. They have been able to clamp down on multiple exchange rates, but they have not been able to clamp down on the fundamental that created multiple exchange rates.
Okay.
They have been chasing round tripping as well as people speculating. But they have not been able to do it in a way because they have only been applying technicality by securitizing our foreign reserve.
All right, Adefolarin, it appears you have a lot more to say as far as the subject matter is concerned, but time is not our friend. So let's leave it here for now. Thank you so much for talking to us.
Right, thank you for having me, and a very good, wonderful afternoon to all our viewers out there.
Thank you. Well, it appears the days ahead are going to be quite gloomy for Nigerians. I mean, you take a look at the face-off between Labour and the federal government. That tussle or controversy, it continues, but at the end of the day, what is going to be the fate of the average Nigerian on the streets? Our fingers are crossed to see more reactions that would trail this, these developments, and we definitely will bring you up to speed, as they unfold. But that's it for news analysis today. Thank you so much for watching. I am Omoife Peace of Semere. I'll be back in a moment with the news update. Good afternoon.